How we doing, everybody? It's Tendermint Timmy here with Zeke, the creator of Dao and Dao Up, or maybe I should say co-founders. I guess I want to kind of let you give a little bit of backstory here, and then we're gonna take a look at Dao. I've resisted playing with it till now, till this sort of live call with you, and so we'll just sort of go through it piece by piece. But yeah, you want to kind of introduce yourself?
Yeah, so hey everyone, I'm Zeke. I think like labels and DAOs are hard, so but I'm definitely one of the core devs on DAO, and also one of the core devs on Dao Up. I got started with these projects. I was initially really skeptical of crypto. I spent a lot of my life thinking it was like a lot of grifting, and I think some of it is. But then I went to this talk with Meow Stargaze, or Jake, as you might know him in Discord or in real life, where he was talking about Dao back in last October. And that was an interesting moment because oh wait, there are things in this space that I think can actually help people improve people's real world lives and are non-speculative. So that's what got me into Dao. And then since October, I've been working on it. I quit my job in January to start working on Dao full time. And then we hacked out Dao Up in the last 2 weeks or so. So it's been a busy couple months.
Dude, awesome. Kind of just out of personal curiosity, what's your coding background? Were you a Rust developer before? Or did you kind of learn that because of the crypto push, or yeah?
Yeah. So my background is not at all in UI work, which is funny because a lot of the work I do now is UI. I mostly worked in InfoSec effectively. I did InfoSec and systems work. So I did work on open source network monitoring software for a while. I worked at Mozilla on the CSS engine for Firefox for a while. And then I worked at Cloudflare for some time working on their Magic Transit product, which is a L3 DDoS and firewalling product. So this is all very low-level systems work. So then coming into this, I think my preference, is working on smart contracts probably, but I think there's a lot of need for good UI devs in this space. And so I'm, trying my best to fill that gap.
So that's actually super interesting. From a non-dev perspective like mine, I'd look at something like Dao or Dao Up and think a lot of it is technical legwork, on the inside. But is that sort of what Juno has changed, where you're able to focus more on user experience and UI than the core infrastructure of a project like this? Is that sort of Juno's 2-second pitch?
Yeah, I mean, so Juno is really great. I got started on Juno actually because I was doing measurements of how much compute different chains could do for smart contracts. And so I measured Ethereum, Polkadot, Solana, and Juno just absolutely killed it. And so I think that, yeah, definitely not having, when you're programming on Solidity on Ethereum, it kind of feels like you're writing code on a microcontroller. You have to, they're really gas sensitive. You have to be really careful about reentrancy attacks. And CosmWasm and Juno, I think, hide that a lot. You have much, much higher compute limits, and it is, in many ways, I think, safe by default. Which means that, yeah, writing a smart contract is a lot easier. And then the hard part is the interesting part, I think, which is how do we make the UX good and how do you make the UI good?
Right, that's sort of that's the real challenge for making it accessible to the masses too, and letting this technology benefit everyone, not just devs.
Yeah.
UX and UI is kind of the key there. Awesome. So I guess there's some good info on Dao out there, but we're gonna try and focus on Dao Up. Do you want to just give us your elevator pitch for Dao Up, and then we'll dive in?
Yeah, sure. So I think some people might have heard of. Well, maybe let me start with. DAOs are good at a lot of things. They can do most things you can already do in the existing US legal system, and probably better. I think, running a company as a DAO, you should do that. Running your community as a DAO, you should do that. And those are things that already exist. I think one of the things that DAOs enable that don't already exist is really broad collective ownership of things and collective ownership of finances and state. So with Dao Up, the question we are trying to answer is, how do we bootstrap that? How do you go from, this sort of maybe a fragmented community that has they are a community, they have assets, or they have shared treasury, and they want to onboard into a DAO? And how do we sort of build this on-ramp for groups like that? And that's what we were trying to do with Dao Up.
Cool.
Dao Up, similar. So you might have heard of like Juicebox, which is an Ethereum crowdfunding platform. And we're similar to that, but you might not have heard that Juicebox doesn't actually create a DAO. Juicebox lets the creator of the campaign withdraw the money at any time, and the tokens you get aren't actually governance tokens. And so that's one of the things we're improving on with Dao Up, is that when you are funding a campaign with Dao Up, you are actually joining a DAO. If that campaign succeeds, you are part of that DAO, and there's never a time that you don't have some amount of democratic control over the money you've backed. So
I did not know that about Juicebox. Aren't they the ones that helped facilitate the Constitution DAO thing? The attempt at that, anyways. Yeah, and so that I did not know that they don't actually literally work as a DAO. That's awful.
It's surprising. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I think part of that is limits of the Ethereum platform. Like with CosmWasm, you can instantiate smart contracts from smart contracts, which makes it a little easier to do this. But it is rather unfortunate, I think.
And wait, we don't want to get too technical, but that piqued my interest. Can you expand on that a little? Expand smart contracts on smart contracts?
Yeah. So in CosmWasm, a smart contract is effectively as capable as a wallet. And that's basically what makes DAO so powerful in many ways, because your DAO can do everything that you can do as a user on chain, except as a DAO.
Oh, right. So you could have your DAO participate in some DApp elsewhere, like in unrelated or whatever. Right.
And it also makes writing these Dao Up smart contracts a little easier, because when you create a campaign on Dao Up, we actually instantiate a CW20 token, which is just a token on chain that we use as this funding token that you also use for refunds. And that is really easy to do with CosmWasm. So, the contracts here I think would be a little bit harder on Solidity, but CosmWasm has made our lives a lot easier.
Awesome. That was a perfect intro. So I guess with that being said, let's take a look at Dao Up. So obviously we have our standard kind of, would this even be a beta warning or just your standard? Is this always going to exist?
This will stop existing once we get an audit.
Ah, okay, cool. Who are you guys looking at for that?
Right now, my number one priority is getting DAO audited, and we'll see who we like from that. And, if we like them enough, we'll probably use them for DAO as well.
Cool. Have you guys looked into Certec?
Have not.
So they're not only are they a very credible auditor, in my opinion, CERTIK, but they actually run, they're Cosmos crew. They run a chain that's IBC connected called Shen2 Chain that offers a lot of decentralized auditing services. It actually goes a bit above my head, but you might love it. It has something called Shen2 Shield, which they call a security oracle, something you can run a smart contract through that constantly checks for exploits, errors, memory leaks. I don't know. This is kind of going outside of my realm, but worth looking into. And then also, whenever I just need competent information on a project, they're the first auditor I'll go to.
Nice. Okay, I'll look at them. I think that sounds cool. I think there's cool things in that space for sure.
Right. Yeah. Cool. So here we are on the homepage of Dao Up, and I guess, do you want to just kind of guide me? We can kind of break down everything I'm looking at, what the parts of the website are, how we would go about looking at active campaigns, etc.
Yeah. So I think what most visitors are going to do is view all campaigns, which you can do in that second green button on the page, or the top bar.
Cool.
and this will take you to a page that's going to list all the campaigns on the platform. We are working hard on getting featured campaigns on here, so it's a little noisy right now. But if you want to you can scroll through these. You can favorite them, which will put them in your profile by pressing that heart button.
Some potato salad.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, so and you can look at one here. So if you look at maybe the OpenNMN project, they're a centralized biotech project.
Interesting. Okay. Oh, these guys reach out to me actually.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I think they're doing cool work.
Yeah, I remember I was immediately like, I'm on board. NMN's actually a very interesting little molecule.
Oh, cool.
Okay, so do you know like how are they using Dao Up? Here's a really good example. So it's an outside kind of real world company that has assets and like employees, I assume, and they're doing stuff. And they came to Dao Up for like what purpose? How would you pitch that?
Yeah, I think they want to run in the spirit of being an open source biotech company. It seems to me that they want to run as a DAO, and I think that makes some sense. DAOs provide a lot of transparency that you don't get in traditional LLCs, or at least it provide guarantees of that transparency. And I imagine they want some backer involvement, although I'm not entirely sure what their plan is for that. You can see in the back that backers are going to have 20% governance power, or see in the right, I guess, they'll have 20% governance power. So if you're a backer of this campaign, you will have some ability to decide what they spend their money on.
Interesting. Cool. Yeah, and so it looks like these two paragraphs are kind of about the company, and then I'll just read from this one real quick. This is the initial funding round, which will grant our earliest of members better terms than following rounds of funding, as well as other perks. This will allow us to achieve our first goal of making genetically modified yeast that produces NMN. Later rounds will fund scaling and growing as a community-owned biotech company, but we can't get there without your help now. Very cool. So NMN, a little background, not that it's important for Dao Up, but it's a molecule that some people have, there's good evidence to support it has some like potential health benefits, but it's like a very expensive thing. So it looks like they're kind of looking at a new and maybe cheaper way to create it with modified yeast. And they're bringing that idea and that potential ownership in like the idea to Dao Up.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about this one. I think going back to this earlier thing about like what are DAOs good at, and I think this is an example of that. There's a I think a common critique of the crypto space is that it's sort of insular. It's like there's a lot of tools for tools, and sometimes it's easy to lose. How are we actually helping people? How are we escaping this crypto space and bridging into the real world? And I think this is an example of one such project, and we'll see what they build. But I am pretty excited about this one for that reason.
So yeah, I'm kind of curious in this project, or I'm kind of curious about this project, and I want to kind of go through these motions. So let's go ahead and donate a little. Would something like donate be the right word? Actually,
I think back is the word I like because it's a little bit.
Cool. So yeah, so I want to go ahead and back OpenNMN. Why not? Just kind of go through this process. Let's just give them 0.1 Juno to start. Okay, cool. And so is this a CW20 token, I would assume? One NMN?
Yes. This is the funding token, and this has a one-to-one relationship with governance tokens. Should this campaign complete? And so once the campaign completes, you'll be able to swap this token for governance tokens. And I can talk more about that mechanic. I think it's an interesting mechanic.
Yeah, actually, I think perfect time to do so. So how might these one NMN tokens like bring me use in the future? Let's dive into that.
Yeah, it's been effectively our goal with Dao Up is we want to take advantage of these DAOs in order to keep community control over money as much as possible. So I'll walk through like how this works from your backing it right now to actually joining the DAO. And so it starts with you backing it, and you'll notice you've received 42 1NMN tokens. Now that you've backed it, you own these tokens, which entitle you to either a refund now, if you'd like it, or governance tokens in the DAO later once the campaign completes. So once the campaign completes, you'll visit this page, and instead of a refund button, there'll be a join the DAO button, which will send your fundraising tokens to the smart contract. The smart contract will issue you governance tokens and send the money you backed to the DAO. And what this means is the DAO doesn't see any of your money until you are part of the DAO and have governance power in said DAO.
Okay, so this token right here is not a governance token. It'll be exchanged for one. It's a receipt of pledging in Dao Up, kind of.
Yeah, exactly. It's sort
cool.
of a receipt. Yeah, and so you can use that for refunds before, and then afterwards you can use that to swap for governance.
Awesome. Okay, so that builds in a little like redundancy. Like you can almost back projects with a bit of I forget which one does it right between like Indiegogo and Kickstarter. I know one of them has an option where like even if they don't meet a goal, they still get all your funds. Whereas the other one's like if they don't succeed in building what they promised to at least some extent, you get your money back. And so you're kind of picking the obviously better of those two options and doing it in this trustless, decentralized way.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. And I think the refund mechanic is neat too. Like, you know, you could realistically back this campaign, and then you effectively, once you back it, you know, if this campaign doesn't meet its goal at literally any time, it's totally permissionless, I'm entitled to a refund. And if it does reach its goal, this DAO won't see your money until you have voting power in that DAO.
Awesome.
So the idea is really we're trying to make it feel pretty safe to back these campaigns and take advantage of these, you know, basically what DAOs and these smart contracts can enable.
Cool. Awesome. A lot of thought went into it, obviously. So just hypothetical, let's say I have these 1 NMN tokens. I forget about them. The project does get fully funded. At that point, I'm not able to like get a refund. My only thing I can do with these 1 NMN tokens is exchange them for governance tokens in the actual DAO.
Yep.
Okay, cool. That makes sense. Just had another question. Let's see. So, oh yeah, do you want to talk a little bit like on the back end? Dao Up and Dao are like related. Like the DAOs being pitched here on Dao Up are DAOs, correct?
Yeah.
It's always funny to say DAOs, but like how does that process work? Like let's say I wanted to make a DAO and pitch it on Dao Up. Do I start on DAO or do I start on Dao Up and then once the funding's done, it gets made on Dao?
Yeah, so you start with the DAO on Dao. So this is a platform for fundraising for existing DAOs. On our roadmap is automatically creating a DAO if the campaign gets funded. But for our first round, we wanted to support existing DAOs. What that effectively means is if you don't have a DAO for your project already, just go on DAO, make a DAO, and then allocate 100% of the governance tokens to the DAO, to the fundraising, and like it's exactly the same behavior.
Gotcha. Cool. Okay.
Yeah, and I think, you know, just to another example of like Juno and Cosmwasm being really great is like this interplay between Dao Up and DAO is totally permissionless. So the DAO smart contracts are open source, and as a result of that, we can import them into our testing and use them and use their queries and their contract executions from the Dao Up code. And so this is like, in my opinion, one of the neat things about this crypto space is like it's sort of interpretability is the default. And if you don't want interpretability, you have a little bit of a harder time with it, which is great for people building things.
So in theory, should I be able to see the NN at this point? NMN must have a DAO, right? So
you can press the visit the DAO button on the Dao Up page in the top right.
Oh, I wasn't sure if that would be working, but right, of course. Awesome.
Yeah, so you can see that effectively they did the we don't really have an existing DAO, but we're going to create one and then allocate much of the governance tokens to initial backers route. And these guys have a Discord too, which you should join and ask questions in.
Cool. Yeah, I definitely will. For, you know, myself honestly, but other people just kind of new to the interface and stuff, if I wanted to look at a project and see what you just said and guarantee that like they allocated a large chunk of the tokens to DAO Up, is that something I'm seeing right here that I'm just, how do I see that? Yeah.
So you can see that we actually make that visible on the DAO Up page. If you go back to the DAO Up page, there's that pie chart. And we show there the lightest green is the tokens that have been allocated to the campaign. The darker green is the tokens that have been allocated to current DAO members, and the darkest green is what's in the DAO's treasury. We have some docs on this in that read the docs link above the governance text. This is something, if you don't trust campaign backers, you probably shouldn't be backing their campaign. We are not removing all trust here. There are ways that backers could use that DAO treasury section to make you have a bad day. But this is indicative of if you have faith in the campaign backers, that 20% governance number there is indicative of backers having a pretty good share in the DAO.
Okay, cool. So just to further just break this down, make sure I understand. So like current DAO member, I guess actually I apologize, but almost, do you want to just break down these three things again? And so because like where are they all living? Like campaign means they are locked in the DAO Up contract right now?
Yep. Yeah, so that's exactly right. I think, good. Like from the beginning, like, you have these DAOs and they have governance shares, which is, perhaps similar to like how an existing company has stocks that infer voting rights. The section of that pie chart that says for the campaign, those are governance tokens the DAO has sent to the DAO Up smart contract for distribution to backers. And so if you are a backer, and you donated 50% of this campaign's funding goal, you yourself would have 10% of the governance power in the DAO. Does that make some sense?
Yes. Yep.
Perfect.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. And then this middle shade of green is who exactly?
So that's the tokens that have been allocated to existing DAO members. So OpenNNM has some number of team members, and they have DAO shares. And so in this case, OpenNNM's like, I don't know how many people they have in their DAO. We could figure it out by querying and doing some detective work. In this case, they currently hold 80% of DAO governance power. So if you joined this DAO, so I guess on this topic of like,
and do you mean that like this sliver right here is 80% to this sliver's 20%, and then everything in green is like we're not counting because that's locked up in the actual DAO that would require voting to do anything with it, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And like I said, like you could be sneaky here, and like there is a like complicated, opaque technical way in which you could like, if these guys were really trying to screw you, they could make a proposal that would execute a future proposal that would move those governance tokens to themselves. Like this is not
something.
Yeah, there is a way these, do research. Don't just think that the crypto, like, trust cannot be entirely replaced by technology. It's still it's largely a societal thing. So take care.
I think that's a huge, actually, like disclaimer about both DAO Up and DAO is like Zeke and others have made tooling for people to create DAOs and platform them. They've not created, any oversight or framework. That was not the goal. Like that's for the community and the free market and you doing your research to decide. That's definitely an important point to hammer home. To just clarify here real quick, so like when it says 20% governance, and that number is talking about this thin green sliver.
Yep.
So the only thing that I think what confused me at first, and maybe a UI change that could be made, is when I'm looking at this pie chart, I'm guessing that like both of these slivers combined is 20%. I'm not realizing right off the bat that this sliver is 25% of these two slivers, ignoring the big green. Now, some people might understand that much easier than me, just with a better comprehension of DAOs. But that's where I had the confusion. The 20% is, the 100% it's pulling from is only these two slices, right?
That's a super good point. Yeah, we can add something. I don't know. Yeah, feedback like this.
I don't
great.
think it's wrong is the thing too. I think it's just part of the learning process of people starting to understand how DAOs work. Because like effectively you do have 20% governance. This darkest green share is like locked up and not owned by any one entity. So it's right, like in every way. It's just part of the growing pains of us like understanding DAOs in their entirety.
Yeah, and I mean, to folks that watch this, like, we want your feedback. I'm Ikez in the Dao Discord and Ikez in the Juno Discord. Like, tag me in things, send messages in these channels. Like, tell us what you think we can do better, and we'll do it. We want to listen to you folks. So
awesome. Okay, so is there anything else here on Dao if we want to check out? Like maybe the basics. We probably won't create our own campaign, but maybe take a look at the interface. Yeah.
Yeah. So campaign creation is pretty straightforward. We support Markdown in the description field. You give your campaign a name, you give it an image, and then you link some community platforms. So, I would encourage people that are making campaigns, like, you want to engage a community. Like, people don't spawn out of nowhere and give you money. It's people that believe in you and are excited about your project. So I think putting in these community details is super important. Community comes before crowdfunding in this case, probably, or as part of it, so focus on that.
Well said. No, for sure.
Yeah, and so in the funding details, you can see there is a funding target. This is how much Juno you want to raise. On our roadmap is supporting, so technically at this point, we are very close to supporting tokens like UST. And we could probably pretty easily deploy in other chains. If you have, if you're a person watching this and you really want to fundraise on a different chain or use UST coin, let me know and we can maybe figure something out for you.
And so to clarify, you mean other like Tendermint and Cosmos SDK chains, right? That can use CosmWasm.
Yep.
So like a DAO type thing could be spun up on the Terra chain.
Yep.
Very
and so it needs testing because safety is really important. But we can figure something out if folks need it.
That's awesome, and that's just yet another point to the cosmos of just like, because everything's on a similar foundation, you can take innovations from one chain and apply them anywhere.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
This also, I think, it's kind of like, it's a very small thing, but just thinking of it, including it, I think is like, it shows you guys put, like, what you said, you spun this up in 2 weeks, actually? Is that?
Well, it was a lot of sleepless nights. I look well, maybe because we've launched it, but it was a journey. And so and I'm working with 2 other folks, so this is it's a lot of work.
Yeah, but just like so, this just caught my eye for some reason. Like that enables a whole other type of like use case almost.
Yeah, I mean, we want this to be a safe thing. And so if you don't want other folks looking at your campaign or you want to circulate it inside of your community, you should absolutely feel free to hide it. And if you want your campaign removed from the listing afterwards, totally let me know. We do management of that list from a DAO and we can remove it. So, we want to help you guys succeed. Cool.
Awesome. Cool. So I guess, without going ahead here, that's gonna kind of sort of be the extent of creating a campaign. But
and we can talk about fees and stuff too.
Yeah, let's do that. So like from both perspectives, if you're trying to spin up a campaign here, or if you're just backing one, if you're a backer, I would think maybe the only fees are transaction fees, but I don't know, I might be wrong.
So we charge a 3% fee on money raised only if the campaign succeeds. So if you're backing Dao Up, you won't see any of that. You won't see any fees. Your refund is complete. But once a campaign is complete, we do take a cut of that. That might seem high for really large campaigns. Juicebox takes 5%, so we're lower than that. And again, like, we want folks to succeed. So if you have a giant fundraising goal, we can chat about changing that number. But also know that, like, devs need to eat and live places. So, but yeah, we want you guys to succeed, and so if that's unreasonable, we can be flexible.
I think, like you said, you're already undercutting probably the biggest competitor in the space, Juicebox, by 2%. And how does something like that work? Just pure out of curiosity, on the back end, you have it set up so it splits evenly between the 4 primary dev wallets? So does it go to a multi-sig thing, or how does like a payment for an otherwise decentralized thing kind of work?
Yeah, so this is like the beauty of DAOs, I think, is so the devs on this project were part of a DAO called the Dao Up DAO on DAO.zone, and payments or fees that we take go to that DAO and then are managed democratically by the 3 of us.
That's awesome. So even among your, I'm sure the other 2 devs pretty well. You trust each other, and even within that small circle, it's like the technology's here. Let's use it.
And I think there is certainly a learning curve to using these DAOs, and Timmy, you're working on that, and we are too. But once you have them, it's really a much simpler. It's much easier to manage than like some complicated Venmoing scheme, even if you do trust people. So. Yeah,
no, like, I mean, it's kind of, in your example, did you say 3 other people or 2?
2. Yeah.
Yeah. So in your example, it's kind of the age-old trope from movies, TV, or whatever. Is 3 people may always go to a vote. 2 out of 3, there'll always be a majority, and it just kind of takes that age-old process of 3 people figuring something out and adds this layer of ease and like.
Yeah, like we can just do it automatically.
Yep.
We also deploy our smart contracts from this DAO. So there's some security advantage to that.
So how does that sort of work? Like, you propose code to go live, and all 3 of you have to like vote that it's good to go, basically?
Yeah. I mean, so this is like the insane coolness of DAO is like, I can deploy a smart contract as a user with a wallet. That means I can also deploy a smart contract from a DAO. And so I actually execute this WASM message for COSM WASM called an instantiate message, which instantiates a smart contract. And we use that for filtering campaigns, and we will be using that for featuring campaigns as well. The advantage of that is that it means that those lists are democratically controlled. So no one of us could like have a bad day and decide we like really dislike potato salad and remove that from the list. So it keeps things transparent, and it keeps things pretty democratic, I think. So.
But okay, wait. So expand on that a little more, just as far as like, let's say all 3 of you did agree that a certain DAO was malicious. Do you have the power to like hide or remove that? It's like still, and like at that point, would you even call it like, I almost used the word partially centralized, but even the centralized entity is a DAO in and of itself. So it's like, this is something I brought up last time we talked about like my project, where like I think the answer a lot of the times will lie somewhere in the middle between like pure decentralization and trustlessness and not. And like it seems like I actually really like that, because like it makes it so no one of you can have a bad day and just not like a project, but also provides some light level of oversight for the platform. Like if something was obviously a malicious scam or just whatever, you could just kind of protect the image of the whole platform from that, and your users as well, from like maybe thinking it's a good investment for whatever reason. Yeah,
and so I think, like, to your point, we are on our roadmap at the bottom of this page here. Like, we really do want to get more folks involved with these moderation decisions, and sort of deciding about the direction. I think there is a motion towards I am personally a fan of the idea that if you are a user of something, you should have some governance control over it. So we imagine users of this platform later having governance power over it and making these decisions. But to your point about like it's not terribly decentralized right now. It's the three of us, but it is transparent. And because we deployed contracts from the DAO, we cannot make a decision like that without it being publicly visible on our DAO's page on DAO. Our code is open source, so if you disagree with us, you can fork it, pull up your own thing, and do better than us. And I think that's kind of the beauty of this system.
That's the perfect way to surmise it, I think. Yeah, it's like whatever sacrifices you might even have in decentralization aren't even like locked in. Like if you don't agree with it, then A, you don't have to use the platform someone else like yourself has graciously built for the community. But B, since you did it open source, right, fork it, do it better if you don't like it. Like, let the community decide if they're okay with that level of centralization or whatever you might call it. And like, I have a feeling, and it goes back to the whole trustless versus trusted debate. Like, there's always going to be a level of trust in the world. That's how it works. And like you guys putting your name on your project, your face on this video, like that gives you an incentive to like not do anything shady. And like just because the ability's there doesn't always mean. Crypto has kind of pushed, I think, some people to be like all to one side of like full. If it's not entirely decentralized, it's a scam. And it's like, if it's entirely decentralized, maybe it won't work very well. Like, you have to tackle everything on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Cool. So I think Dao Up's pretty simple. I figured, this video would be not even this long, but there's just kind of so much to talk about with DAOs in general.
I know, right?
Is there anything you kind of want to add as closing points? Maybe things you're excited about down the road? Even any notes about DAO? Doesn't have to stick with Dao Up.
I guess my closing pitch to folks would be, we've built this thing and we think it is better than existing systems, but it is only as good as you are. Like we need folks to fundraise on here. We need folks to build communities on here. I think it's possible and doable, but now it's kind of in your hands, and we want to hear your feedback. We're open source. If you want to submit PRs, you can. If you want to read our code, you should. If you want to read our code for examples for writing other code, you should. We're in Discord. We're very active. Tell us what we could do better, and we will do it.
What's the most effective route someone could give you guys feedback? Would it be like a direct message in Discord, or do you guys run forums somewhere? Like what would be the best kind of organizable way on your end for people to get in touch with you?
Yeah, great question. I think so. There's a Dao Up there's a bottom of this page. There's a link to a Discord. It's the same as the DAO Discord, and there is a Dao Up channel in there where we hang out. So you can send us messages there.
Awesome, sweet. Well, I think we covered everything there is now. I'm sure we'll have to do another one of these videos. Like a year down the road, there'll be new features and like. Literally, who knows what can come. Yeah,
I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. It's super cool. I know you have like other real life responsibilities and stuff, so it's
Yeah, no, I mean, like I appreciate you saying that. I appreciate you taking the time to do it as well. I think it's good for everyone to get some perspective from the people who build things. There's so much going on in the cosmos.
Yeah,
when you consider the fact that Luna's part of the cosmos, they're in their entire ecosystem with things going on. Secret's becoming its own ecosystem. Juno's now at that point. It's like it's hard to keep up with everything, and like sometimes you don't want to read a Twitter thread or go into a Medium article, but if you stumble across a video on your Twitter feed or something, maybe we'll convert a few people to Dao Up.
Yeah, man.
That's sort of my idea. But cool. Awesome. So I guess we'll probably wrap it up. And I'm just really excited for what the future holds. So thanks for your time here, and everybody definitely go give Zeke a follow on Twitter and join the DAO Discord. And I guess signing off, cosmonauts. Remember to check in Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays on Twitter for Cosmos Spaces, and then on Wednesday I do one that you should send your kind of crypto newbie friends or people who are into other chains. I do sort of an onboarding basics, like cosmonaut bootcamp type of thing. Other than that, though, everybody have a great day.